Building on his commanding presence and iconic voice, Charlton Heston's legacy extends far beyond the roles he played on screen. While he captured audiences with his performances in epic films like Ben-Hur and The Ten Commandments, his true personality remained shrouded behind a carefully crafted image. Known for his strong stance on freedom and his passionate speeches, especially at events like the 2000 NRA convention, he projected strength and conviction. Yet, behind that powerful exterior, Heston faced personal struggles and doubts that he kept mostly private. His public persona was designed to inspire confidence, but it hid deeper layers of vulnerability and internal conflict. Now, for the first time, these hidden truths are coming to light through the words of his daughter, who knew him intimately. She shares stories that reveal a different side of Heston, the man shaped by early hardships, complex beliefs, and a search for genuine meaning in life. As she speaks openly, viewers begin to see the full picture of a man who was much more than just a Hollywood icon. This revelation allows us to understand the deeper forces that moved him and the personal sacrifices behind his public image. Because Charlton Heston was born John Charles Carter on October 4, 1923, in the small town of Wilmette, Illinois, he spent his early years in a place that was peaceful and close to nature. Growing up in rural Michigan, he experienced the beauty of forests, fields, and wildlife, which helped shape his love for the outdoors. Instead of being loud or outgoing, young Heston was quiet, shy, and very observant. He felt more comfortable in the woods than amid crowds or noisy places. However, his childhood was not perfect. His parents' marriage fell apart, and they divorced. This caused him emotional pain, and took him from his familiar surroundings to a new life in suburban Chicago, where everything felt strange and unfamiliar. Despite these difficulties, Heston found something special that helped him cope. He discovered a passion for storytelling and acting. His first experience was in a school play, which sparked his interest in performing. Acting became a way for him to express his feelings and understand himself better. The woods and nature gave him comfort, but the stage became his new sanctuary. What started as a way to handle his worries in difficult times grew into a lifelong career. His love of the outdoors and his early experiences shaped the man he would become, someone who would later bring strong, memorable characters to life on the big screen. After proving his talent and showing great determination, Charlton Heston earned a scholarship to Northwestern University, where he enrolled in the School of Speech. At Northwestern, he threw himself into the world of theater, studying voice, movement, and the classical stage with great focus and passion. His discipline was strict, and he was never satisfied with just performing. Instead, he spent a lot of time learning the craft of acting, always trying to get better and refine his skills. It was during his time at Northwestern that he met Lydia Clark, a fellow student who caught his attention with her quiet strength and artistic spirit. They shared a strong interest in theater, and their emotional connection grew quickly into love. Their relationship was built on mutual respect and working together creatively, and it became the foundation of Heston's personal life. In 1944, they married just before he joined the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. The war years were tough on their young marriage, but their bond only grew stronger as they faced these challenges. When Heston returned from service, he and Lydia continued their life together, facing Hollywood's fame, financial worries, and changes in his career. Lydia was always by his side as his trusted confidant and supporter, helping him through the ups and downs of fame and personal struggles. They raised a family, built a home, and shared their journey with a strong sense of love, integrity, and the desire to keep their private lives safe from the spotlight. After their marriage and Heston's return from military service, Charlton and Lydia Heston moved to New York City with big dreams, but they had little else. Their early years were hard, filled with constant money problems and a string of unpredictable jobs. To get by, both of them worked as nude models for art students. They didn't do this out of scandal, but because they needed to pay their rent and buy groceries. They accepted these jobs with dignity and quiet strength, knowing it was a temporary hardship. Still, their passion for acting and art kept them going, and they moved to Asheville, North Carolina, hoping to start a regional theater company. They poured all their savings and energy into this project, but it didn't succeed because not enough people came to see their shows. Disappointed but not broken, they returned to Manhattan. There, they focused on more practical work in television and stage acting, learning to survive through perseverance. These early struggles helped build their endurance and strengthen their bond as a couple. During this time, John Charles Carter adopted the stage name Charlton Heston, combining his mother's maiden name with his stepfather's surname. This new name symbolized a fresh start and marked a new chapter in his life as a young actor facing many difficulties. The hardships they faced in those years became the quiet drive that eventually helped Heston rise in the entertainment world. Since then, Charlton Heston's dedication to his craft truly paid dividends as he took on powerful roles in classic productions. One of the most pivotal moments in his career was his portrayal of Mark Antony in the play Julius Caesar. His performance in this role drew critical acclaim and caught the attention of CBS executives, highlighting his talent and stage presence. His work on stage showed a raw authority and emotional depth that set him apart from other young actors of his time, making him stand out in the theater world. This exposure on stage led to his first appearances on television, opening doors to Hollywood and larger audiences. Director Hal B. Wallace noticed Heston's commanding voice and strong screen presence and offered him his first major film role in the 1950 noir film Dark City. Heston's performance in this film demonstrated his potential as a serious actor, but it was his meeting with the legendary director Cecil B. DeMille that truly marked a turning point. DeMille saw in Heston a physicality and nobility that perfectly matched the biblical epic he was planning, the Ten Commandments. Heston's resemblance to Michelangelo's famous statue of Moses at San Pietro in Vincoli further reinforced his casting as the prophet. Determined to embody the role with authenticity, Heston immersed himself in the character and the history, studying the Old Testament closely, visiting desert regions to understand the environment of the story, and enduring harsh climate conditions to physically and emotionally connect with Moses. His portrayal of Moses was not only a cinematic triumph, but also a cultural milestone, transforming him into an international star. The film's success launched him into worldwide fame, and forever branded him as one of Hollywood's greatest epic actors. Despite the enormous success of his role in the Ten Commandments, Charlton Heston did not become complacent or rest on his fame. Instead, he kept working hard and staying dedicated to his craft because he believed each new role was a chance to learn something new and challenge himself. This sense of discipline reminded people of a soldier who strictly follows his training, but he also approached acting with the curiosity of a scholar who wants to understand every detail of his characters. One of his most important later roles came in the film The Greatest Show on Earth, which was released in 1952, and again directed by Cecil B. DeMille. To prepare for playing Brad Braden, a serious and no-nonsense circus manager, Heston spent many weeks watching real circus performers and observing how traveling shows operate. He wanted to understand the complex logistics of keeping a circus running smoothly, which helped make his performance more believable. During this time, Heston also started using techniques from method acting. This meant he would deeply study the ideas behind his characters, memorize relevant texts, including scripture, and even put himself through physical hardships like enduring extreme weather and performing difficult stunts. These efforts helped him get into the mind and spirit of his role, making his portrayal feel authentic. His dedication drew the attention of Cecil B. DeMille, who began to see Heston not just as a talented actor, but as a true creative partner capable of bringing big visions to life with authenticity and depth. By the middle of the 1950s, Heston had grown into more than just a Hollywood actor. He was becoming a major cinematic force. His performances made audiences see him as a figure of strength, morality, and emotional honesty, qualities that set him apart in an era that admired heroes. His ability to portray these qualities convincingly helped him stand out and gain respect from filmmakers, critics, and viewers alike, marking his rise toward becoming a leading man in Hollywood. The making of El Cid was a notable chapter in Charlton Heston's career, marked by both professional triumph and personal tension. Heston, known for his disciplined and methodical approach to acting, was cast as Rodrigo Diaz, the legendary Spanish hero. He approached the role with academic rigor, dedicating himself fully to the demands of the character. Heston's professionalism was well recognized, and he expected a similar level of commitment from his co-stars. However, his on-set relationship with Sophia Loren, who played his love interest in the film, was anything but smooth. Loren, with her fiery Italian temperament and emotionally expressive style, found Heston's stoic and reserved nature difficult to relate to. Their differences in personality and acting styles quickly became evident, creating tension between the two stars. The conflict was not just about personal incompatibilities. The film itself was a massive international co-production, with immense pressure from financiers and high expectations for box office success. The crew, hailing from different cultural backgrounds, often found themselves at odds over how to execute the ambitious vision of the film. The intense environment of El Saidi added further strain to the already strained relationship between Heston and Lauren. The pair reportedly communicated through intermediaries during filming, avoiding each other off camera as much as possible. Despite these tensions, both actors remained focused on their performances, which were ultimately praised for their depth and sincerity. In many ways, the behind-the-scenes difficulties reflected the larger challenges of Hollywood filmmaking. The clash of egos and creative visions was something Heston knew well, and it reminded him that the path to creating something great on screen often involved navigating complex personal dynamics. While El Cid was a success and remains a celebrated historical drama, the personal costs of such high-stakes filmmaking were evident. For Heston, the experience was a lesson in the complexities of collaboration, where personal and professional boundaries often blur under the pressure of public expectation. During the making of the Ten Commandments, the set was filled with scenes of mighty plagues and the parting of seas, but behind the scenes, there was a notable rivalry between Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner. This rivalry was not full of hostility, but carried an unspoken sense of competition. Both actors were known for their strong presence and powerful voices, and they understood that the camera favored whoever showed the most intensity. Brynner, who played the Pharaoh Ramesses II, began to realize that Heston, as Moses, dominated many scenes not just with words, but with his physicality and presence. Wanting to stand out, Brynner pushed himself to transform physically by lifting weights and adjusting his posture, sharpening his delivery to make his scenes more striking. Heston, always a professional, noticed Brynner's efforts but chose not to comment on them. Instead, he concentrated on making his own performance more emotional and intense, making sure Moses' journey felt real and powerful. Although their rivalry was mostly about pride and performing well, it pushed both men to do better. The tension between them added energy to their acting, making their performances on screen even more compelling. This exchange of energy helped elevate the film's emotional impact and added a special edge to the story. By the time filming was over, while they were not close friends, they respected each other's talents and understood that their rivalry helped create a classic movie that continues to be admired. Throughout his life, Charlton Heston demonstrated that true love and commitment can endure even the most demanding careers and public scrutiny. Fortified by a deep emotional connection and shared purpose, Heston and Lydia Clark built a marriage that lasted over 64 years, proving that real relationships are rooted in resilience and understanding. They first met as young students dreaming of careers in the arts, and their bond grew stronger with each passing year, surviving the uncertainties of post-war America and the rise of international fame. Lydia, who began as a talented actress, eventually found success behind the camera as a photographer, choosing to focus on her own pursuits while supporting Heston's career from the background. Their marriage faced many challenges, including the hectic schedules of film sets, where Heston would often be away for months, leaving Lydia to manage the home and nurture their children. Despite these demands, their connection remained steadfast. They kept in touch through letters and quiet conversations, always making time for each other amid busy schedules. Heston often credited Lydia with being the most important person in his life, describing her as the center of his world and a constant reminder of who he truly was beyond fame and awards. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, trust, and unwavering devotion, standing as a symbol of dignity that contrasted sharply with the fleeting romances often seen in Hollywood. Their love story reflected a quiet strength that endured through good times and bad, through health crises and aging, showing that the most enduring marriages are based on deep understanding and steady support. Although Charlton Heston was known for his tall, commanding presence on screen, portraying roles of strength, stoicism, and righteous authority, his real personality at home was quite different. Behind the camera, he was a gentle and loving family man who cherished his children, Fraser and Holly. To his children, he was not the fierce Moses or the heroic Ben-Hur, but simply Dad. He read bedtime stories in theatrical voices that made his children's eyes light up, and he often whistled or danced cheerfully while doing household chores like unloading the dishwasher. He enjoyed playing silly games in the backyard, encouraging his children to explore their creativity and curiosity. Heston believed in teaching the importance of books, discipline, and standing up alone for what was right, but he did so with patience and warmth. Family vacations were special and often took them to quiet, nature-filled places far from Hollywood's busy world, where he could reconnect with his roots and provide a peaceful upbringing filled with structure and spontaneity. Despite his busy film schedule, he always made time to write letters home, and once back, he was fully present, offering love and attention. His daughter later recalled that Heston carried no trace of ego in family life. He did not seek admiration but earned respect through patience, humility, and love. This softer, emotionally open side of Heston contrasted sharply with his on-screen personas, showing that beneath his commanding exterior was a man deeply devoted to his family, someone who valued kindness and genuine connection above all. Ben-Hur would become Charlton Heston's defining role, an epic that won a then-record 11 Academy Awards and elevated him into the highest echelons of cinematic history. Beneath the grandeur of Roman arenas and biblical themes, however, lay a curious creative choice by screenwriter Gore Vidal. Concerned that the relationship between Judah Ben-Hur and Messala lacked narrative tension, Vidal introduced a subtext suggesting that the two characters had once shared an emotionally intimate, perhaps romantic, bond in their youth, which had since soured into betrayal. Vidal, knowing Heston's traditional worldview and his concern for moral clarity in his roles, chose not to reveal this interpretation to the actor. Instead, he worked discreetly with Stephen Boyd, who played Messala, encouraging him to convey subtle hints of the past relationship through body language and emotional cues. Heston, unaware of this backstory, played Judah with righteous indignation and wounded friendship, completely unaware of the undercurrent Vidal had crafted. This decision added unexpected layers to their dynamic, making their confrontations even more emotionally charged. It also serves as a fascinating example of how 1950s Hollywood navigated boundaries, code restrictions, and actor sensibilities while still pushing the envelope of character complexity. For Heston, it remained one of his most powerful performances, fueled by sincerity, even if he was unaware of the full narrative depth intended by the script. Though many remember Charlton Heston primarily for his commanding presence and memorable roles, there is a deeper aspect of his contribution to cinema that remains largely hidden. One of the most enduring mysteries surrounding the film The Ten Commandments is the identity of the voice that roared from the heavens, delivering divine commands to Moses. For many years, audiences and critics alike speculated about who had voiced God, drawn in by the deep, resonant tone that seemed to echo from the burning bush and towering Mount Sinai. What many do not realize is that the man behind that powerful voice was Charlton Heston himself. Without any official credit, Heston lent his voice to portray the divine, adding a subtle yet profound layer to the film's storytelling. His involvement was driven by his desire to deepen the connection between Moses and the divine power he represented. Heston suggested to director Cecil B. DeMille that his own voice be used for God, but with a different modulation to create a clear distinction. DeMille agreed, understanding that Heston's voice could give the divine scene added weight, but they decided to keep this secret from the public at the time. The studio was concerned that revealing Heston's dual role might lessen the impact of the divine voice, or make the portrayal seem less special. As a result, the mystery persisted for decades, fueling myths and adding an aura of supernatural authenticity to the film. It wasn't until the 1990s that the truth was finally confirmed, long after the movie had become a legendary masterpiece. At that point, the revelation served not only as an interesting trivia fact, but also as a testament to Heston's keen artistic instincts and his subtle influence on a film that touched millions and shaped the epic genre. His voice, deeply embedded in the cultural memory of cinema, now carries an audience even more into the spiritual and emotional heart of the story. Holly Heston, Charlton Heston's daughter, has shared a deeply personal perspective on the private life of her famous father. Through her reflections, we learn of a man who was committed to his family, loyal to his wife Lydia, and deeply in love with his children. Despite his fame, Charlton never allowed the glitz and glamour of Hollywood to overshadow the values he held dear. While filming in remote, often isolated locations like deserts or historical sites, he would write letters to Lydia, describing not just the events of his day but also his emotions, his longing for home, and his joy about the prospect of becoming a father. These heartfelt letters were later shared with Lydia as a testament to their strong bond. Holly noted how her father never sought the Hollywood lifestyle or the attention that came with it. He steered clear of the scandals that plagued many of his contemporaries and remained focused on his values. Charlton believed in the importance of creating a stable home for his family, and he modeled discipline, kindness, and loyalty in everything he did. Holly recalled how sacred family traditions were to her father, from sharing nightly dinners to writing personal notes for birthdays. Unlike many stars who fell victim to the excesses of fame, Charlton found his greatest fulfillment in the quiet moments spent with his family, offering love, guidance, and unwavering support. Holly's insights confirm that, for Charlton Heston, success was not measured by the number of headlines he generated, but by the strength of his character and the depth of his love for his family. His life serves as a reminder that it's possible to be both a celebrated star and a devoted family man. Before his political transformation, Charlton Heston was known as a vocal supporter of progressive causes, often risking his career to stand alongside those fighting for justice. During the 1950s, he openly opposed McCarthyism, refusing to participate in the Hollywood blacklist that devastated many writers and performers. His courage was especially evident during the civil rights movement, when he took a bold step that many actors of his stature would not have dared. In 1963, he joined the historic March on Washington, walking close to the platform where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Few celebrities attended because they feared backlash from the industry or personal consequences. Yet, Heston believed deeply in the Constitution and the idea that all people deserve equality. He felt compelled to act, publicly supporting the movement through service announcements and speeches aiming to promote racial justice. These actions aligned him with liberal ideals, but for Heston, it was never about party politics. He viewed the Constitution not as a fixed rule, but as a living document representing freedom for every American. He believed that public figures had a duty to defend these rights whenever they were threatened, standing for principles that he saw as vital to the country's future. As the 1960s turned into a new era of cultural change, Charlton Heston found himself feeling increasingly out of place with the movements he once supported. He still believed in individual freedoms and the importance of personal responsibility, but he grew uncomfortable with many aspects of the counterculture that was rising around him. He saw its anti-establishment attitude, its moral relativism, and its rejection of traditional values as problems. Over the years, his views began to change, and by the 1980s, he had become a well-known figure in conservative politics. His change was not sudden or reactionary. It was the result of many years of careful thinking and personal beliefs. Heston always valued principles such as personal responsibility, freedom of speech, and the importance of the Constitution. As he spoke more in public, he focused on the need for law and order, respect for history, and he warned about the dangers of government overreach. In 1998, Heston became the president of the National Rifle Association, using his voice to support Second Amendment rights with the same passion he once had for civil rights. Some people called him a political chameleon because of his changing views, but Heston saw it differently. To him, this was an evolution, not a betrayal. It was a journey rooted in his core values, emphasizing that being an American meant the freedom to change, ask questions, and stand strong, even if it meant standing alone. In his later years, Charlton Heston became one of the most vocal and recognizable advocates for the Second Amendment in American public life. His views on gun rights were shaped not by partisan politics, but by a deep concern over what he saw as increasing governmental intrusion into personal freedoms. Heston, a lifelong reader of history and a self-declared constitutionalist, believed that the right to bear arms symbolized much more than the ability to hunt or defend oneself. It represented the ultimate safeguard against tyranny. This belief was rooted in his understanding of history, where oppressive regimes often began by disarming their citizens before seizing control. His 2000 speech at the National Rifle Association convention became iconic and cemented his place in the Second Amendment debate. Standing before thousands of supporters, Heston raised a flintlock rifle above his head and declared that it would only be taken from my cold, dead hands. The moment was captured in photos and headlines, marking the crystallization of his second public identity, no longer just a cinematic hero, but a cultural symbol in America's ongoing debate over liberty, rights, and regulation. Though some critics accused Heston of extremism, he never wavered in his stance. For him, the Constitution was sacred, and he saw his role as a defender of its principles. His speeches were often filled with eloquence and historical reverence rather than vitriol. He believed that every citizen, not just public figures, had a responsibility to speak out when freedoms were threatened, and he viewed himself as part of a broader effort to protect those freedoms. Despite the controversies and heated debates surrounding gun rights, Heston remained steadfast in his advocacy, believing that the Second Amendment was essential to preserving American democracy. Because Charlton Heston had first-hand experience with military service, he knew the true meaning of sacrifice. When he was young, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. He served as a radio operator, an aerial gunner on B-25 bombers in the Pacific region. This part of his life left a lasting mark on him. It shaped how he saw patriotism and gave him a deep sense of empathy for soldiers. This was not just words or empty gestures. Heston showed his support through actions. During the Vietnam War, while many actors and famous people avoided the controversy, Heston decided to visit Southeast Asia. He made the journey to meet with American soldiers on the front lines, even though it was difficult and risky. He did not do it for recognition or to gain popularity. Instead, he went to listen to them, to bring messages to their families back home, and to show that the soldiers were not forgotten. His visits to hospitals, army camps, and war zones demonstrated true courage and compassion. When he returned, he didn't give speeches or make political statements. Instead, he came back with tears and stories about the bravery he saw in young men fighting far from their homes. For Heston, supporting soldiers meant more than just words. It was about respecting human dignity, sharing in their duty, and honoring all those who risked their lives to keep freedom safe. After spending many years as a well-known actor, Charlton Heston faced the last part of his life with a quiet strength that matched the courage he often showed on screen. In the late 1990s, he learned he had prostate cancer, a serious illness that many people find difficult to face. Not long after, he was also diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a condition that affects the brain and can cause memory loss and confusion. Instead of hiding his health problems, Heston chose to tell the public openly. In 2002, he made a heartfelt video where he shared his diagnosis. He wanted everyone to know that even if he forgot some names or moments, he would always remember who he was and what he believed in. This honesty was rare, especially among celebrities who often hide their age or struggles. By speaking openly, Heston helped others feel less alone and encouraged them to seek help and support. Despite his failing memory, he stayed active in charity work, visited with his many friends and fans, and relied on his wife Lydia, whose constant care showed the depth of their love. In his final years, he was not defined by his illness but by his resilience, his ability to reflect with gratitude, and his courage to face life's challenges honestly. Through this difficult time, Heston proved that true strength is not only about winning or being young, but about facing life's hardest moments with honesty and bravery. Building upon his vast body of work, Charlton Heston's contributions to Hollywood go far beyond what can be measured by awards or box office figures. His impact on cinematic history is profound and lasting, shaping the way audiences and filmmakers view heroism and storytelling on the big screen. From his early roles in biblical epics to his performances in historical dramas, science fiction thrillers, and Shakespearean adaptations, Heston displayed a rare ability to move seamlessly across genres and generations. He brought a commanding presence to every role, whether portraying Moses leading his people, the chariot-racing hero Ben-Hur, the noble warrior El Cid, or the rugged astronaut George Taylor in the classic Planet of the Apes. Yet, it was not just his physical presence that made him special. He also brought a deep sense of humanity to his characters. His portrayal of moral conflict, vulnerability, and strength created a new template for the modern hero on screen. But Heston's legacy extends beyond his acting talents. As president of the Screen Actors Guild, he fought tirelessly for actors' rights, advocating for fair treatment and better working conditions. His work behind the camera as a director and producer showed his passion for pushing artistic boundaries and supporting ambitious, risky projects that challenged audiences and creators alike. He mentored many young actors, sharing his experience and encouraging new talent to pursue their dreams. Heston also championed the arts and worked to preserve classic films for future generations, ensuring that valuable cinematic works were not lost over time. Over more than 50 years, Heston remained committed to shaping the industry, not merely following trends but creating them. His influence is still felt today in film schools, theaters, and households worldwide. His name remains a symbol of excellence, integrity, and artistic daring. In the end, Charlton Heston was not only a beloved actor, but a true legend who played a significant role in writing the story of Hollywood itself. Because Charlton Heston's career spanned many different forms of entertainment, he was truly a versatile actor. He was not only famous for his roles in epic movies with grand marble sets and ancient stories, but also made a name for himself in the fast-paced world of live television. During the late 1940s and 1950s, when TV was still new, He appeared in many live dramas on shows like Studio One, Playhouse 90, and Hallmark Hall of Fame. These shows were more than simple entertainment. They required quick thinking because a mistake could be seen by millions with no chance for retakes. Heston was very good at performing in that environment because he could deliver strong emotions and connect with viewers instantly. His ability to look into the camera and make people feel close to him was a special skill that TV producers valued highly because audiences trusted him. In 1947, he also made his debut on Broadway, and just a year later, he won a Tony Award for his powerful performance as Macbeth. This showed that he was just as talented on stage as on television and in movies. Even after he became famous for movies, Heston continued to do TV shows, variety specials, and guest appearances on popular programs like Saturday Night Live. He even appeared on The Muppet Show, singing with Kermit and joking about his career. These different roles and appearances prove that Heston was a flexible performer who could succeed anywhere, on stage, in front of the camera, or in front of a live audience. His talent and charm made him a beloved figure for generations, from older viewers who remembered his classic live dramas to younger audiences watching reruns. His ability to adapt to each new entertainment form helped him keep his appeal fresh and wide-ranging. Because Charlton Heston embodied a masculine archetype that predates the popular use of the term alpha male, he set a powerful example of what true strength looks like. His portrayal of characters like Moses and Ben-Hur showed him as a leader who was not just physically commanding, but also morally upright. These roles presented him as a righteous figure who was willing to carry heavy burdens, symbolizing a strength that is rooted in conviction and duty. At the same time, he played characters like Taylor in Planet of the Apes and Thorn in Soylent Green, who were wary survivors shaped by dystopia. In these parts, Heston's characters searched for meaning amid chaos, illustrating resilience and cautious hope. His consistent pattern of muscular resolve combined with moral clarity became a model for many actors who followed, inspiring figures such as William Shatner, Harrison Ford, and Russell Crowe. Some actors adopted this archetype directly, while others challenged it, yet all recognized the standard Heston had established. Importantly, Heston's performances included moments where his characters showed cracks in their armor, such as flashes of fear in chariot races or doubts during moments of global crisis. These vulnerabilities made his characters more relatable and authentic, showing that true strength involves acknowledging weakness and vulnerability. Through his work, Heston demonstrated that resilience, conscience, and even doubt can coexist, creating a masculinity that is both powerful and real. Hollywood continues to look to his example when shaping the leading men of today, emphasizing that genuine toughness includes the capacity to be open about fear and doubt, making the archetype he crafted timeless and influential. From all his public speeches and commanding roles on screen, Charlton Heston remained a figure shrouded in mystery. Friends often remembered him as a jokester who could effortlessly switch from quoting the humorous poems of Ogden Nash to grabbing an axe and clearing brush around his home. His family knew him as someone who kept journals filled with tender thoughts and personal reflections, revealing a softer, more introspective side. However, colleagues found him to be an intensely focused actor who arrived on set with detailed shot lists scribbled beside his dialogue, showing his dedication to his craft. His political life was equally puzzling to outsiders. He marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., advocating for civil rights, yet later he became the president of the National Rifle Association, which seemed a surprising shift. In his library, well-worn copies of the Constitution and Plutarch's Lives suggested that his interests were deeply rooted in questions of civic duty, morality, and the power of individual choice. Even in his final years, when Alzheimer's disease clouded his mind, visitors still glimpsed flashes of his theatrical talent, with moments of reciting Shakespeare or winking when someone mentioned Cecil B. DeMille. These contradictions, the public voice that thundered loudly, and the private person who questioned just as deeply, helped keep biographers busy and admirers captivated. By choosing not to reveal every detail of his life, Heston kept the conversation about him alive, ensuring that his true nature remains partly concealed and endlessly intriguing. Building on what we have learned from Charlton Heston's daughter, it becomes clear that his life was more complex than the strong, confident figure we often saw on screen and in public. Her story shed light on his struggles with personal doubts, his internal conflicts, and the difficulties he faced during his life. We see that despite his impressive public persona and passionate speeches, Heston experienced moments of vulnerability an uncertainty that he kept hidden from many. His journey was marked by early hardships that shaped his character, and these experiences helped him develop the values he championed, like freedom and justice. By sharing these intimate insights, his daughter gives us a fuller picture of who he truly was, an imperfect but deeply motivated man searching for meaning and authenticity. This revelation helps us understand why Charlton Heston left a lasting legacy, not just as a legendary actor, but as someone who fought his own battles in private. It reminds us that even the most inspiring figures have their own struggles, and that their true strength often lies in how they face these challenges inwardly. As we look beyond the surface, we can appreciate the human behind the icon and acknowledge the sacrifices he made to leave a lasting impression on the world.